Hello, and welcome to today's segment of CNN News. Today we'll be doing something very extraordinary, something monumental, something never before done in CNN history. What is this amazing thing, you ask? Drum roll, please. And then we will be interviewing 4 of the major characters from Charles Frazier's award-winning book, Cold Mountain. Who are these amazing and intriguing characters, you ask? Well, none other than Ada, Inman, Starbrod, and Ruby. Now we go to Beecher's. And now we're going to go speak to Starbrod, who is outside playing the guitar at this very moment. Hello, Starbrod. Sorry for disrupting your beautiful guitar playing.
It's all good. What can I do for you?
Well, I was wondering if I can ask you some questions regarding your past and what you did in the war.
You betcha. Go for it.
So let's begin with the very beginning of it all.
All right.
So, what was your life before the war, and what was your relationship like with your daughter, Ruby?
Well, before the war, I was pretty much a drunk. All I cared about was drinking and partying. Anything to do that. So I pretty much let Ruby care for herself, and later years I realized what I had done, and I became a better father after that.
That changed during the Civil War?
Yep.
So what was this experience like, and what triggered that change in you?
Well, when I was in the war, we was hanging around with a bunch of soldiers one night, and a gentleman came up whose daughter had been burned in a fire, and she was dying. So he said his daughter's dying wish was to hear me play the guitar because she wanted to hear somebody play the guitar. So I obliged, went over and played the guitar for his daughter, and she wanted to hear more. I played her all 6 songs I knew, but she wanted more. I told her I didn't know no more, but she told me to improvise, so I improvised. Now I got about 900 songs. You want to hear some of them?
Sure. Nice.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go see Ruby, who is in the kitchen. Hello, Ruby. So I'm here to ask you a few questions about your life, past and present.
Okay.
So let's start with the beginning.
Okay, so I grew up pretty much on my own. My mother, I never knew. She died when I was very young, so I didn't know her. My father was always out drinking and gambling, so I didn't see him. So I pretty much raised myself. I was out shooting and cooking and cleaning my own food and taking care of myself, and it was really a really tough life. But I realized that, hey, I need to take care of myself, so I just toughened up, and did things on my own.
And so that brings us to our next question. What were your feelings towards your father, Starbrod?
So I hated him. He was never around, and then he went off to the Civil War, and then when he came back, I caught him stealing corn from my corn crib, from Ada and my corn crib. And he wanted food from me. He was asking for food, and I made him stay out on the porch because I didn't want him in my house. I still hated him. But then after he came back, I realized that he was changing. So I decided maybe I would kind of help him with food. Still didn't want him in my house though. But my feelings started changing a little bit toward him. Okay, so one day his friend Reed came over to my house and said my father had been severely injured and thought he was dead. So Ada and I ran over there to go see what was going on, and we thought we were going to bury him and his friend, and come to find out my father was still alive. His friend had died, but my father was still alive, and we took him to an old Cherokee village, and I basically just nursed him back to health. And after that, we got a little bit closer, and then from that day on, both of our lives had changed for the better because we were closer.
Hey, wow! So we're going to switch gears a bit, and we're just going to talk about you and Ada and how y'all met and the terms and conditions that came with that.
Okay, so Ada, I came to know Ada through a lady friend that was a trader that I used to use all the time, used to trade with, and she told me about Ada and her dilemma where she had just lost her father and she really needed someone to help her out because she didn't really know how to take care of herself. So I went over there to meet with her and we talked, and I told her I didn't want any kind of payment. I would be happy to help her out with the cooking and cleaning and everything, but I just wanted to be treated as an equal. And she had a huge house that I had never had before, and I didn't want to stay in that huge house. So she directed me to a little shed that she had in the back, and that was just perfect for me. And so that's how we got to know each other.
Wow, very interesting. Great story. So thank you, Ruby.
You're welcome.
Rod, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So, I talked to Ruby, Ada, and Stavros earlier about their lives and experiences, and I was wondering if I could do the same with you.
Of course. Well, at first I believed the South had a chance, that we were fighting for a reason. Then I just realized it was hopeless.
So, how did you leave the battlefield?
I got a terrible neck injury and I had to be brought to the hospital. I decided it was time to go back home, so I walked out the window.
Very interesting. So, you walked all the way home?
Yes, I met a lot of very different people. A goat lady, a preacher named DC, and a young lady named Sarah. All the people who decided to help me along the way. I got to her home and she wasn't there, but a young man came out and told me where she went. I went out looking for her and found her in an old Cherokee village where she was hunting. At first, she didn't recognize me, but when I started walking away, she called my name. And then we spent the rest of our lives together, with Ruby and Stavros.
That was beautiful. Okay, well, thank you for your time, Inman, and I wish you the best of luck.
Why, thank you.
So I'm here with Ada at her house. How are you doing, Ada?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so tell me, how was life before the war and before Monroe, your father, died?
Well, I never knew it was a problem until he died, but I was babied a lot basically when he was still with us. Monroe did all the things having to do with money. I never learned how to do the dirty work like gardening, cooking, or bargaining.
Well, Ruby came along, correct?
Yes, when Ruby came along, she taught me how to do all those things. I was beginning to become a woman, not the naive little girl that I used to be.
Now, I must ask this. What are your feelings toward Inman?
Yes, I loved him. Even though our relationship can be awkward in more ways than one, we still love each other very much.
Wow, I wish I had someone like that.
Thank you very much for your time, Ada. I very much appreciated it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beatrice, and thank you to our amazing audience for tuning in and listening to the wonderful and heroic stories of those four major characters, Ada, Ruby, Inman, and Stavros. That concludes our segment for today. Make sure to tune in tomorrow when we will be discussing some interesting facts about the book Never Let Me Go.